Shabbat Shalom. A riddle for you. How many Jewish mothers does it take to screw in a light bulb? No one knows this one? Oh, I always think these are old jokes, but apparently they're new to an entire generation. The answer, of course, is none. I'll just sit here quietly going blind. All right, so obviously the crux of that joke is the capacity, the almost supernatural capacity for a Jewish mother to inflict guilt upon all of her family. This is the trope in many jokes and many movies, plays, books, the ability for the mother to lay burden of guilt upon someone is quite impressive in the Jewish history. But the thing, of course, is that although this became an overdone and, quite frankly, untrue and unflattering version in the 20th century, we do, as a people, have a strong relationship with guilt. Anybody who comes to Yom Kippur knows that there are multiple confessional sections during our service when we are beating our breasts, when we are confessing our sins, when we are reflecting upon all that we have done wrong in the previous year. Guilt is a daily companion in our service as well. Within the morning, afternoon, and evening services, there are also much shorter confessionals where we also reflect upon any of the mistakes we may have made that day and ask for forgiveness from them. Guilt is constantly welling up in the Jewish soul. And I say that's a good thing, because guilt is actually the sister of hope. And without guilt, you can't feel hope. And quite honestly, I am often suspicious of people who say they feel guilty about nothing, because that has an underlying psychological flaw and danger. But let's go back to this idea of what guilt means in the first place, because I will admit that there are some people who are, shall we say, over-enthusiastic at taking on guilt for things which guilt does not ascribe to them, that they are perhaps taking on the emotion of guilt without the necessity of the guilt for that situation. So, I'll give you a comparison. You are sitting quietly in your car, getting ready to pull out of the driveway, and suddenly a meteor comes out of the sky and it hits the neighbor's cat. Dead. We cry, we weep, we tell our neighbor how sorry we are that the cat was killed by the meteor. Do we feel guilty for this? No, don't feel guilty for this. You can feel bad, you can feel sympathetic, you can feel compassion, you can feel empathy, you can do anything you think might be helpful for your neighbor in dealing with the grief of this sudden, unexplained loss of their pet, but you don't have to feel guilt because you didn't do anything, right? You were not responsible for the extermination of the kitty. That was an entire freak accident out of your control. Scenario number 2, you are running late for work, you are running out to your car, you throw your stuff in the car, you jam it in reverse, you step on the accelerator, you peel out down your driveway, dunk, dunk. Okay, now do you get to feel guilty? Absolutely. Now, it's not the same guilt you would feel as if you had swerved deliberately to hit the cat, but what could have been different in that scenario? You could have taken a little more time, right? You could have looked around. You could have checked to make sure that the cat, who often likes to sleep under your car, wasn't under the car. You could have given yourself a little more time when you woke up so that you weren't rushing out the door so late. And that way you wouldn't have been recklessly coming out of the driveway so fast and maybe, hit even a person, let alone a cat. So there are things you could have done. The feeling of guilt, when properly taken on, is reminding us that there are levers within this world that we have control over. That God has given us free will, that God has given us the capacity to choose right from wrong, whether it be in small circumstances or large. And therefore, when we choose wrongly, or choose ignorantly, or choose mistakenly, we should feel guilt for that, not so that we can wallow in self-pity and misery and feeling just bad for the rest of our life, but so that it will be a proper spur to change, so that next time when we go to get in that car, we look around a little bit more. Next time when we are pulling out, we are a little bit more controlled, and we are a more calm and careful driver. Guilt is there because we have hope that things can be better. If you didn't believe that things could ever be better, that you would never be a better driver, you would never be a more careful driver, that animals are just going to die one way or another, so who cares whether it's a meteor or my wheel, well, then you don't need to feel guilt for anything, do you? If the entire world was predestined, preordained, if you're born good or born wicked and just going to do what you're born to do, there's no reason to feel guilt either. But that is ultimately a hopeless philosophy. That is ultimately a perception of the world that says you are but a mere passenger. You are not in control of any element. You may not be in control of meteors, says Judaism, but you are in control behind the wheel of that car. You are in control in so many aspects of your life. And yes, the world can be confusing, and the world can be daunting, and the world can be supremely frustrating at times. But that doesn't mean that you have nothing that you can do. That doesn't mean that you are completely released of all possible responsibilities. There are always things that we can do, always things that we ought to do. And when we choose not to do them, feel guilty. Take some moments to reflect each day on the things that you messed up at. It's not about beating yourself up for being a bad person. It is about hoping that you will do better next time. And that only comes in those moments of reflection. And it only comes with that Jewish optimism that indeed you can be more successful. You can be better. You are not born sinful. You are not born wretched. And this world is not but a veil of misery. It is what we make it. And we have hope that it will be better. Not just for us, for the kiddies too. Shabbat Shalom.